It's currently a very interesting time in the watch market. We've seen some great changes go on of late, and things have definitely picked up across some brands, so I thought it's a good time for me to get in and delve into the watch market as a whole, give you guys some info from the front lines of the watch world, since we haven't done a market update video since July last year. So here's things as we see them at Trilogy. The last 6 months or so have certainly been an interesting time. Prices have continued to fall from their highs of March last year, which were really a bit nonsensical in some models, and prices did just go insane. It was good to see prices actually come down a bit. It allowed us as stockists obviously to purchase more inventory with the same amount of money. Really, if you think about it, what good is it having 100k to buy 2 Daytonas at 50k each, when if they're at 20k you can have 5 Daytonas. Whether the price is 50 or 20, we still make the same profit margin, you can just have less inventory. So really, lower prices have been a little bit better for us. Obviously it's a bit sad to see people get their hands burnt on a few models here and there, but I mean, prices have started to pick back up again, and the watch market is starting to look a bit more fiery again, which is quite exciting. There was a perfect storm in spring of last year for the watch market to start falling. It looked pretty much indestructible, and as though things could not drop, and things just kept going, and people were speculating on that fact. Even when Panda Daytonas some sellers were selling them for pretty much £50,000, and we all know who that was. People were still speculating that they was going higher and higher. I mean, we never sold one for more than sort of 40, which I still think was pretty high for a watch that at the time retailed at 10k. But speculation really does fuel markets, and there was a perfect storm for things to come down, which I won't delve too deep into in this video. But if you click the banner up there, you can watch my video on the market update we did in July last year, which really goes into the reasons that the watch market fell. And obviously a lot of them did come true, and what has happened. But so the watch market's fallen. We're back to sort of pre-COVID levels. There was a lot more money supply around before COVID, but now we're back to sort of realistic prices, which is good really, because collectors and people who really want these watches can now get back involved and start buying again, and really they've become a lot more affordable. The watches aren't cheap, we don't sell cheap watches, but they have definitely become a lot more affordable than they were, which is a real good sign for those avid collectors out there. So it's a bit of a funny time. Here we are in mid-Feb of 2023. December last year was unlike normal Decembers for us in the jewellery business. Usually November, December, the festive period as it's known, is a real busy time for us in high-end jewellery, watch and retail. Obviously naturally Christmas, people are gifting and spending their money on the luxury goods that we sell. But last year I think people were tightening their belts a little bit more, just because of the news, the cost of living crisis, inflation. People weren't going out and spending that extra bit, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 grand, whatever it may be, on a gift, and maybe we're sort of choosing to substitute that with something a little bit cheaper, just to err on the side of caution financially, which does make a lot of sense. I mean, there is a lot of doom and gloom in the news, but I think people are starting to realise that there is still money out there, and there's still opportunity, and people have started buying again. I mean, try and book a restaurant or walk into a restaurant in the West End of London on a Friday night is absolutely impossible because everything's booked up. Markets are picking back up. For watches, people are buying again. I've got friends in the car business that people are now buying luxury cars again, and inventory's just moving across all sectors in the luxury world, it would seem. So yeah, December wasn't quite what we expected, but what's happened instead, which was a bit weird, a bit unexpected, but actually quite exciting, is that January for us and for all of my friends pretty much within the business was actually better for everyone in December. People started buying again, people started coming out, spending money, and seeing, picking up opportunities. People waited to see where prices have gone. They've come down a lot. And if you was waiting to buy something that was 50 grand, now it's 20 grand, why wouldn't you? Basically, you're 30 grand in front. So it's a beautiful time for that, really. And, I've got to add my eye on a few pieces, and I'm starting to think, if they come down to a point where I'd consider adding to the collection. I haven't done yet, but I do think that as a couple of nice models I've got my eye on, so I might start purchasing. So yeah, different models have been performing better. 2023 is obviously an exciting year for the Daytona. There's a lot of speculation around it. The Daytona, in its current iteration, was first released in 1963. So today, this year will be its 60th anniversary. Obviously, there's a lot of anticipation around what Rolex are going to do to honour and celebrate this wondrous occasion of its anniversary. The 50th anniversary of the Daytona, they released this absolutely stunning, the Platinum Daytona, reference 116506, which I have on my wrist here. It was an instant hit, really, really nice watch, and it's probably one of the best Rolexes to own. Everyone loves it, and if you want to know a bit more about it and delve into it, check out my video in the banner right now. I've done a great video on this last year. So we're expecting a lot from the Daytona this year. The Daytona is probably one of the most recognizable watches of all time and one of the most successful selling watches of all time. So for a brand like Rolex, they've really got to do something special to honor this momentous occasion. So there's been a lot of excitement around it, and I for one can't wait for towards the end of March to see what Rolex do. There's a few different things that, you know, people have been speculating. Maybe they'll update the platinum with a meteorite dial. I think that would look fantastic. I'd be really excited about that. But there's also been speculation that they may discontinue the whole Rolex Daytona line. Currently, the Daytona is one of the only references left as a 116 reference. All the others have been updated into a 126, like we've seen with the Sub, the GMT, but all the Daytonas are still currently on a 116. So there's speculation that it could be increased in size to a 41mm, as well as an updated movement with a longer power reserve, you'd imagine, which would see the discontinuation of the whole line, which really has fueled the fury and the spark into the Daytona line again. And I've got some good examples of that today. The Panda Daytona, as I said, was around 50k with some sellers last year, and they've retreated all the way back down to pretty much 20k. And it looked like they was going to go through 20k, but they held strong. And you'd be impossible to pick up a Daytona for 20k or even sub 25. The brand new Pandas today are trading around £28,000. You see the same with the black ceramic. They were, you know, they've always been a few grand behind. They were 35-ish grand, and then they went down to sub 20 or 18, 19 almost. But again, you wouldn't be able to pick one of those up today for less than 25. So they've had a recovery of like 5 grand in literally 8 weeks. So that's pretty good. If you would have bought it at that time, you know, you'd be a very happy man today. Obviously, a lot happier than the man who bought it a year ago at the 40-odd grand price. But you know, it's all about timing with these things. But they are surely recovering. Another one that we've seen is this one here, the green Daytona. These went up to 120 grand last year, and they've retreated all the way back down. They went down to pretty much 50k towards the end of last year. It looks like they was going to go through 50k, but they didn't. At the start of this year, they've started picking up. And you'd be hard pressed to pick one up of these today for, you know, just shy of 70k. A brand new one, you're going to be definitely in the high 60s. And as I said, the anniversary model was the Daytona, the 50th of platinum. So this one here, these went up to, especially with this dial, the Piguet dial, these went up to 170, 180,000 pounds. They dropped back down to pretty much retail. Retail now is about 70 grand. And they weren't shifting for that. But all of a sudden, the Daytona hype has started. 2023 has gripped us, and these are steadily on the way back to 100k. These today at 95 grand with this dial, or 80, 85 with the plain dial, which represents a recovery of 20 to 30,000 pounds in, as I said, 2 months. So, you know, if you would have bought this and timed it right, you'd be a very happy man today. But it's not just the Daytona line. We've seen it across other models as well. Something like the Day Date 40 in rose gold. We've got the one here, the olive dial. This is the 60th anniversary, released in 2016. It's the one that everyone always wanted and the dial that's always been hyped. So these went from a watch that retailed at £33,000 from the authorized dealer all the way up to 75 grand in the hype, and they went all the way back pretty much to retail price. They went through, they went back down through 70, through 60, through 50, and it looked like they fell through 40 and hit 37, 38. But again, today they've had a recovery with that olive dial specifically. You wouldn't get one for less than 45 grand today. So if you would have got in at that price at the 37, 38, seen where it was going, you'd be a happy man with your 8 grand profit today. So that's another one that we've seen a good recovery on. The other dials we haven't seen so much of a recovery. They are still now above retail. Retail is now on these 35,000, so they are trading a little bit above. But I mean, traditionally, rose gold, full gold Rolexes weren't really making premiums on the retail price. But this dial specifically is. So those two have been pretty exciting, as we've seen. And again, just, you know, back to the run-of-the-mill stuff, the stainless steel stuff, the stainless steel sports models like the Submariner here. We've got the Sky Dweller here, which has also had a recovery. I know it's not a sports model. However, these have seen a bit of a shift upwards. The Sub-Date 41 mils, they were always above 12, 13, 14, even 15 grand at one point. And they dropped all the way back down to 10 grand at the lows of last year. But now you wouldn't be able to get one for less than 12,500 today. So you had another 20% recovery there. As I said, there's many examples of things just picking up. We've got this Black Sky here. They went to 28 grand on the Jubilee. Obviously the Jubilee is a lot newer. They fell all the way through 28, all the way down to 15. But again, today you wouldn't get this for less than 20. So we're definitely seeing a big pickup in the prices. And I think with the pickup in prices leads to a greater confidence in the market. Greater confidence leads to further prices, and it just spirals on from there. So there definitely is a lot more confidence, not just in the watch market. I feel confidence from consumers as a whole. People aren't getting too worried about all this doom and gloom, and people are spending. And I think as confidence grows, that fuels the prices to get, confidence grows, demand grows, sales grow, prices grow, and it becomes a spiral again. But hopefully it doesn't go as crazy, as fast, because obviously, as we've seen, it wasn't sustainable. So we'll have to see what happens from there. It's not just Rolex where we've seen a bit of a pickup in the market. APs, we've got an AP here, the stunning Royal Oak 50th anniversary there. These went really high in price, like everything did, over 100 grand for some of the stainless steel chronos, which is super high. And they've come back down to a much more affordable price, trading slightly over retail. The AP's almost grinded to a halt at some of the points across the last year, which obviously is a massive shame for the AP market. But as they grinded to a halt, prices naturally fell, which led to them being more affordable for more people. And we've started to sell a few APs again now. APs have started moving again this year, obviously at the newer, lower prices than what they were. But they definitely are picking up. It's a shame to see a watch of this caliber that just wasn't moving and wasn't getting asked about, because they are part of the Holy Trinity and they are some of the best watches on the market. But it's good to see that people are now getting back into the AP market, because it's an exciting place to be, and they are some incredibly well-made pieces of horology. Patek, like Rolex, obviously saw some massive drops from the highs of last year, but we have seen some steady increases, and some of the Patek inventory is starting to sell again. This model here is the 5990, absolutely stunning Nautilus in stainless steel with the grey dial. This was discontinued, and upon its discontinuation, it jumped massively in price, and they hit almost with £250,000 for a watch that retailed at 50k. So obviously a multiple of 5 times on a stainless steel Nautilus is a bit crazy, really. It wasn't a limited production piece, but people capitalized where they had to capitalize, and I think it was a good move at the time. But they've come back down this to around 100 grand now. They're definitely selling at that price. The rose gold version of this, the 5990, hit almost £500,000, and it retailed at only 90 grand. They've also come back down. They're about 200 to 250 depending on the model and year. So it's a big difference. £250,000 is a big chunk of money to anyone. So if you was looking at buying a 5990, it was at £500,000, and now they're only at a quarter. That's a 250k saving you've made. So you might now consider, if that's your price bracket, getting into the 5990. So that's a bit exciting for people. Also, the hot one last year that we saw was the 5811G, obviously the replacement for the 5711. This has come out of the gates at not too much of a ridiculous price, to be honest. It retails at £56,190 and it's trading at pretty much a multiple of 2. And I know people say, well, it's trading 50 grand over retail, that's a lot. Yes, it is a lot, and it is over 110 grand for a watch that retails at 50. But if you think about it, that's in the money for what it should be. Nautiluses have always traded, or for a long time have traded, for a multiple of 2 of retail. This is the new hot Nautilus at 41 mil in white gold. Why wouldn't it be double retail? And I think double retail represents pretty good value on that one, because if it was released a year before, that watch would no doubt be 200 grand. It's only because of the time of year it was released. It's 110 grand, so it's a good. It's good to see that things aren't crazy. 50k is a big premium, but it's nowhere near as big as a premium as 150k. So it does make it more, I wouldn't say affordable, but I'd say, because we are talking big numbers here for watches, but they are certainly more achievable than 200k, 250k. So it's quite exciting, because that's a whole new realm of collectors it opens up these watches to. So I think that's a real good thing with these market corrections that we've seen. Mille is another brand that obviously is very important to talk about when talking about a market update within the world of horology. At the start of the correction, it really seemed like it was relatively well insulated from the price corrections that we've seen across the board. However, it couldn't just stay at those high prices while everything else was falling. It wouldn't really make sense. So Mille prices have started to come down as well. You had things like the RM3502 were trading 400k. They've come down now to like 300. So it's you're 100 grand saving there if you was looking to get into one. This model here, the RM30 in rose gold, they were trading like 230, 240,000 in the hype. Now today, now we've seen the correction, they're around 160, 170 for the rose gold version, which isn't really massively over retail. So again, that's another time and another opportunity to get into something not too much of a multiple. Especially if you've been looking at it and sitting on the sidelines, I think a lot of people will consider getting into it now. So that was a bit of an update on the market from what we're seeing on the front lines of the watch world. You know, what's moving, what's hot at the moment, and where we expect things to go. It's actually, the correction's been quite a good sign for the watch world, you know, because obviously, as I said, things are a lot more affordable. And it really, I want everyone to be able to afford and appreciate these luxury watches. You know, it's not just for a select few. And the lower the prices are at reasonable levels, the more affordable and the more people can get them. So I find that quite exciting. If you've been sat on the sidelines and think now is a good time, get in touch with me. You have all my details in the banner below. Let me know what your thoughts on the market are, where you think things are going, and if you're going to pick something up at these discounted prices. Thanks for tuning in to Trilogy, and if you're looking for a new watch, don't forget to phone Frankie first.